Hello and welcome to another lesson from Soflex Math. Today we're going to be talking about rounding whole numbers, and we're going to use some of our ideas from our previous lesson to do that. Remember, we talked about each place value's name and also the value, so that's going to come into play here, as well as writing the number in expanded form. So while we're not going to write the whole number in expanded form, we're going to have to kind of understand the idea of the place value and how many zeros to add. So today we have a number in blue there, 7,621,783. So we're going to use that number today to round to each of those place values you see in purple. So the tens column, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and 100,000s. So we're going to restart every time and use that same number. And hopefully you'll be able to see a nice pattern develop as we go through all of our answers. Now, the nice thing about rounding here is that we really only have to focus on two numbers when we're rounding, because we're going to round to a specific place value, and then we always look to the right. So let us start in the tens column. So which number do you see there that is in the tens column? So as you look through, hopefully you're able to identify that the 8 is in the tens column. So we have our 8 here. All right. And then we also need to know about what number is to the right. So that's the ones column or the 3. So when I said we only have to worry about two numbers here, we're only going to worry about the 83. We're not going to worry about any of these other numbers for this particular example because we're worried about rounding to the tens position. So when we look at 83, we just got to think, is that closer to the number 80 or is it maybe closer to the number 90? And hopefully we can realize that if we put it on a number line or just counting, we know that 83 is closer to 80. So the place value, the 83, rounds to 80. But we can't forget about all these other numbers because it would not make sense that a number in the 7 millions rounds to 80. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to show you how to rewrite the entire answer using our rounded value. Because remember, our rounded value is 80. So 80 is going to take the place of 83, but we have to include all these other numbers. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so as we look at our tens rounded number, you'll notice that we still have our 80, so the 83 turned into 80, but we have to include all the numbers to the left exactly as we saw them. So 7,621,783 rounded to the tens place still has a lot of the same numbers. That answer is in red there at 7,621,780. So notice how all the numbers stayed the same, and in this case, the 8 even stayed the same. And then the 3 became a 0. So there wasn't a whole lot of change there. But as we work through, so now we're going to go to the hundreds place value, and we'll kind of see how that maybe looks a little bit different. So looking at that number, think to yourself, what number is in the hundreds place value? So in that case, when we go back to our original number, it's the number 7. And then we're going to look for one to the right. So this time, the only two numbers we're worried about are 78. And we're going to ask that same question. Is 78 closer to 70 or 80? And in this case, 78 is closer to 80. So this time our 80 is going to go over here. And then anything to the right, we're going to fill in with a 0. So notice, remember when we did our place value, so now the place value of 8 is 800. So we have 800. So we're using some of those same skills from earlier lessons. Okay, the rest of these numbers you're going to see, you're going to follow that same pattern. So this time we have rounded to the hundreds is 7,621,800. To the tens, it ended in 780. All right, so now we're going to go to the thousands place value. So take a minute to make a prediction. What do you think it's going to look like as far as which numbers to choose to round, and then what is your final answer going to look like? So take a second to think about it, and then I'll show you the correct answer. Okay, so hopefully you can see now that I've underlined the 1 and the 7 because the 1 is in the thousands and then to the right is the 7. So I'm going to ask that question again. Is 17 closer to 10 or 20? In this case, it's closer to 20. So I'm going to go ahead and that's going to be kind of my starting point always. So I'm going to write down my 20 and then everything else to the right because it's like thousands. So we want to make sure that it's like 2,000 and all the numbers. So this was the place value. So I still need to write down a 7, 6, and 2. So the 7, 6, 2 all stays the same. So this number rounded to the thousands is 7,622,000, and that's it. So notice how we have 3 zeros for thousands, 2 zeros for hundreds, and 1 zero for tens. All right, so same thing. We have 2 more place values to go, so think about 10,000s next, and then we'll go ahead and go through the answer. So just think for a minute. So this time, go ahead and check your answer with what you may or may not have done. So in this case, the 21 is in the 10,000s, the 2. So 21 rounds to 20, and then all the numbers to the right stay the same. So 20,000 is how much the 10,000s rounds to, and then we still keep our 7 million and our 600,000 part. Okay, and now our final one, the 100,000s. So same way, take a moment to think about that. Okay, so the 6 is in the 100,000s place, so we look at the number to the right, which makes those two numbers 62. 62 is closer to 60, not 70. So when we round it, we turn that into a 60. So our final answer for the 100,000s is 7,600,000. So what I want you to notice is that just because you're rounding to a greater place value doesn't mean that the value of the rounded answer is greater. So if you look here, if we're going to get to ordering numbers, which we will later on, but if you look here, the 7,600,000 is actually less than what we rounded to the 10,000s. It's actually less than these couple answers. So I think that's very interesting, just to make a note of that. Don't always think that this, oh, we're rounding to the 100,000, so that number has to be the greatest. In this case, 7,600,000 is less than 7,620,000. That's also less than 7,622,000. Okay, so just kind of following that pattern of we have 5 zeros, 4 zeros, 3 zeros, 2 zeros, and 1 zero. So feel free to add any questions in the comments, and just realize that there are worksheets down below. So 1 page of questions and 1 page of answers, so you can check your own work to see how you're doing. And then we'll see you in the next video. So we're going to talk about rounding decimals next. So that'll be our next lesson. Thanks for watching Soflex Math.